Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Toon Tuesdays, your weekly roundup of Newcastle United news. As always, loads to get through today as we approach the 1 year anniversary of the Newcastle Takeover, so loads to get through. Before we do, if I could please ask you guys to get down and hit that subscribe button. Loads of you guys watch Toon Tuesdays every week, but still haven't subscribed to the channel. It's completely free. It costs you nothing, but it means you will be notified when I post a video, and it really helps the channel as well. So if you could spend a moment to scroll down, hit that big red button, it would really help. And yeah, let's get into the video. It's now being reported that he has signed a new 2-year deal with Newcastle United with an optional 3rd year as well, so we could well see Callum Wilson sticking with Newcastle for a further 3 years. It's also thought that there is a little bit of a pay bumper in there as well. If you think that we've signed Isak and Wood both on high wages, both on more than what Callum Wilson would have been getting, you can understand why maybe Wilson wanted, or the club wanted, to kind of, increase that contract. And he goes out on Saturday and scores straight away. He is a fantastic striker, so clinical. I think he scores a goal every 4 shots on average. And if you think about how many shots we had against Bournemouth and Crystal Palace, he could have scored 10. So it's great news that he's back. It's great news that he's signed a new contract. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one. He is 30. In 3 years' time, he'll be 33. He is injury prone, but it's also thought that Wilson will be helping out with the younger up-and-coming strikers, not necessarily being that, first-team choice in a year or two's time, but still a very professional, proven striker to help these players through, like Isak coming through, like Garang Kual. Newcastle have already got the January window started. We have made our first signing of the January window. The 18-year-old Aussie Garang Kual will officially join Newcastle on the 1st of January. Wonder kid. Dan Ashworth's out there doing his bit, bringing in these young talents. He played in an All-Stars game for it'll be quite interesting to see if England ever did anything, but Australia do like an all-stars game where they get all the best players from the league to play against a different team. They played against Barcelona, and Xavi, the manager of Barcelona, called him incredible, said what a fantastic talent he is. It's understood that Newcastle have beat a number of European sides to this kid, and he officially signs in January. He's thought that he will go straight out on loan. These are the guys that we could see involved. And yeah, the January window has started already. So we'll have to see, who we'll bring in next. Because I do imagine we will be doing some work in January as well. Now then, on to some ex-Newcastle player news. Starting with some really good news and kind of tailing off and then talking about Michael Owen a little bit later. But to start things off, ex-Newcastle player Nalberto Solano Nobby has set up an academy over in Peru and has offered first refusal to Newcastle United for any upcoming stars. Who knows, maybe you'll get on the phone to Dan Ashworth and have a word with him. But it was an interview done by the Chronicle where Solano said that after working with the Peru national team at the World Cup, at the Copa America, he made a decision that he wanted to start up his own academy. He said that he'd love to find kids who go on to be professional footballers, and why not at St James's Park. So it's great to hear, that an ex-player is out there and what they're up to. And as I say, if he does find the next Solano to send over to Newcastle, how good would that be? So yeah, best of luck to Nobby with his academy over there. Fingers crossed, he can unearth some hidden gems over there in Peru, and who knows, maybe he will be on the phone to Dan Ashworth very soon. Another ex-player to pop up at the weekend was Shola Ramiobi, who appeared on Soccer AM at the weekend, unofficially called Geordie AM at the weekend because of the number of Newcastle fans they had on. They had Shola Ramiobi, they also had Andrew Cushion, a local musician. They had all of the Geordie fans on there as well, and it was great to see Shola on there, hitting the crossbar, scoring the goals. He also took some time to talk about what he's up to now in his role at the Newcastle Foundation. It's clearly something that means a lot to him, and to have him kind of on the telly for the world to hear talking about it was really, really great. He's very heavily involved over at the Newcastle Foundation with their, brand new £8 million, rooftop pitch, Newcastle, as they call it, was great to hear. And speaking of the foundation, they actually held their awards night last week as well. It was to celebrate the impact of the foundation in the region and diverse community that it serves. So the foundation is something that is really helping the local area. They have served over 3,000 people benefiting from the new centre. As I mentioned, the Newcastle, the £8 million building that they've got there now, is really serving the community, and it's something that Shola is very much a part of. They had the awards ceremony where Amanda and Murdad were there. They also had Gabby Logan there. There was a number of players there as well, handing out awards to some of the fantastic local people, children who have either helped out or have, had help from the foundation. So it was great to see Shola over on Soccer AM talking about it. And as I say, it's great, that 6 months on since the centre was built, just how much it's helped people already. And as I say, the awards ceremony, you have the owners and the players there to kind of, as I say, hand out rewards and give thanks to people who are helping at the centre, but also some of the, the people who have really received help from it as well. On to another ex-Newcastle player, Michael Owen, who, in my opinion, did not come across very well in a recent interview, and that's putting it lightly. He appeared on the BT Sports show, What I Wore, which is actually a great show. They get on ex-pros like Gary Lineker. Gaza's done it as well, and they go along a rack of shirts where they pull shirts out, talk a little bit about why they wore it, when they wore it, what it meant to them, and Michael Owen got onto the Newcastle shirt where he signed for us back in the day, and as I say, in my opinion, came across like a complete moron, to be honest. And I'm not going to allow myself to get het up and angry about this one, because I don't think he had many Newcastle fans left. And if he did have any left, he hasn't got any now, because he honestly, I just don't understand what comes out of this guy's mouth. He actually starts off by talking about Graham Souness, who was the Newcastle manager at the time. It was understood that Souness had been on the phone to him, saying, if you ever did want to come back to England, you could come to Newcastle. And Michael Owen went on to say that, he didn't want to go to Newcastle pretty much. But that he respected Graham Souness, and that he wanted to be polite to Graham Souness, and he felt like he was being too nice to say no. What world is this man in? Where was the respect, politeness, and being nice of everything you then followed saying in the next 2 minutes of this interview? Because he then went on to say that while he was at Real Madrid, he was understood that Liverpool were interested. The president or the manager of Real Madrid at the time said, that we're basically going to move you on. He was like, okay, because he thought it was Liverpool. It turned out to be Newcastle. He then had this whole rant or conversation about how he only wanted to go to Liverpool and he didn't really want to go to Newcastle. I don't know. You talk about polite respect and being nice. I think it's just common sense on this guy. I don't think he realises what comes out of his mouth sometimes. Basically saying, that allegedly that when he agreed to sign for Newcastle, that we had also agreed that should he get a offer from Liverpool in a year's time or another year's time, that we would allow him to leave. that bid never came in. He never went there. And he then had, the audacity, in my opinion, to use Shearer's name in this interview, saying that when it came down to it, I had a great time at Newcastle, but I just didn't want to be there, basically. He wanted to be at Liverpool. He said that if it was Shearer, he would have done the same. Yeah. As I say, I've smiled through most of that. I wasn't smiling when I watched it last night, to be honest, because it's just absolute... It's waffle, and it's madness. I just don't know how he can... And then, as I say, spent a minute or two trying to tell the guy who was interviewing him, and presumably everybody else, what... Oh, well, it's only because I wanted to go to Liverpool. It wasn't that I didn't have a good time at Newcastle. He spent ages saying how he didn't want to go there. And then, and as I say, from what he said in his books and whatever previously, there is no love lost, between the Newcastle fans and Michael Owen anymore, because it is honestly just... It's just a... I was going to say just a charade. It's ever him trying to say, I did like... No. Just give it a rest at this point. And what's crazy as well is that despite the fact that he spoke how much about how he loves Liverpool, as far as I'm aware, the Liverpool fans don't like him. Because when he left Newcastle, he went to Manchester United and won the league there. So I don't actually know if there's a footballer who's more disliked by every club he played for. The Liverpool fans don't like him because he went there. The Manchester United fans didn't like him because he was at Liverpool. Newcastle fans don't like him because of the fact of everything he said. Real Madrid didn't want him anymore. They were trying to... Well, as I say, allegedly, what he was saying was like, I could have stayed, I could have not stayed. It didn't sound like they wanted him, to be honest. And if he wanted to stay that much and didn't want to go to Newcastle that much... Anyway, that was what Michael Owen had to say. Let me know your thoughts on that down below if you want to. But yeah, as I say, am I surprised? No, absolutely not. Can you believe it's been almost a year this week since the Newcastle United takeover, a year since we celebrated outside of St James's Park, at home, at the pub, with friends, with family, a year since it went from... toxicity in the community, boycotts, protests, overnight turned into a community again. And as I say, this year seems to have just flown by. The owners have done so many good things, on the pitch as well as off. The news on the new training ground, hopefully coming soon. The improvements they are slowly making to St James's Park. And I do think that as we approach the end of this week and, look forward to the Brentford game, we will probably hear a little bit more from Eddie Howe, the owners, Amanda and Murdad. But the first to kind of talk a little bit about the purchase of Newcastle is Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who is the governor of the PIF, the Newcastle owners, and is also the chairman of Newcastle United. You will recognise him. He's been spotted in the stadium with Amanda in many photos previously, and he did an interview which is available on YouTube. It is in Arabic. You can get the English translation and watch along, but The Athletic have also covered a little bit of what he said in an article as well. If you want to go and check that out, I'll leave various links down below. But just to run through a little bit of what he said, he mostly touched on kind of why they bought Newcastle and why they went for Newcastle as a club, as it is rumoured, and he touches on this as well, that they were in fact offered, I'll say allegedly, 30% of Manchester United for 700 million before deciding to make the move onto Newcastle. And Newcastle weren't the first team they looked at. They looked at teams in multiple different leagues from multiple different countries, but it was Newcastle they eventually settled on. Now, he is a businessman, and a lot of what he talks about isn't necessarily what we might hear from, Amanda and Murdad and Eddie Howe later in the week. He is obviously the man who's looking at the figures here. But as I say, allegedly, PIF were offered, 30% of Manchester United for 700 million. They went on and got the whole, almost the whole of Newcastle United for, 350 million. He said that football is the most important sports, and in the English Premier League is the best in the world. We looked at it from a finance perspective. For example, in the UK, we were approached and offered 30% of a club for 700 million, but that would include no interference in the club. So, as I say, allegedly, that club is Manchester United. I don't think we'll ever find out whether that's fully true or not, but the idea is they were offered, no chance to actually partake and be involved in the club. It was just money backing by the sounds of things. And then they had the approach from Amanda and the husband and Newcastle United, and it was 350 million for, well, he said 100%. It's not exactly 100%, but that they would be able to get involved in the club. Obviously, the Reuben brothers got involved, huge property investors trying to add to Newcastle as a city, and Yasser said, yes, that sounds great, that's something we want to be involved in both parts there, the club itself getting involved, and also the city and the investment in the city itself as well is... It's crazy. And then he also went on, as I say, the money man, and talked a little bit about what he hopes to do with Newcastle in terms of growth and worth. Talking about the fact that Chelsea, valued and I believe, I'll say allegedly again, sold for around, it was a 3.5 billion. He then went on to say, you look at the figures to take a team like Newcastle, who for a sale price was, way lower than what Chelsea was, around 350 million, to have that ability to hopefully grow the club to compete with the likes of Chelsea in that worth of 3.5 million. So we've got a little bit of background on kind of what potentially happened before they bought the club, when they bought the club, obviously why they bought the club, and then also what they're hoping to achieve in the future. I mean, to have a club worth 3.5 billion, how do you get there? Well, you get there by doing what we're doing on the pitch right now, which is investing in the first team, investing in the youth team, like Garang Kowal, but then also adding in terms of the new state-of-the-art training pitch that we're hoping to see very soon. Improvements to St. James's Park that have been small for now, but I think will continue to progress as we go on. And for Yasser to come out and, as I say, speak a little bit more on that we hadn't really heard as much before is great to hear. And, whether, the other club was them or not, who really knows. But the thing that really sticks out to me more than anything is his talk on wanting to be involved with the city itself, not just the club, and how they really want to invest and, as I say, build the club up to a value or a worth of around 3.5 billion. That's going to take some doing. That's going to take quite a lot of money invested, and where that will take us as a club and as a city, we can only wait and see. But that is the first that we've kind of heard this week. I think there will be more later in the week, as I say, as we approach the anniversary. I think there's no doubt Newcastle will probably come out and talk a little bit about that later in the week. So I look forward to that. And yeah, just to hear that, to know we're heading in the right direction, we're going up, and enjoy the ride. I think that's the best way to put it. And that is it, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this week's Toon Tuesdays. As I say, I do this video every Tuesday, cover all of the week's Newcastle news, and if you don't want to miss the next one, be sure to hit that subscribe button. As I mentioned earlier on, it is free to do so. Just scroll down, hit that big red subscribe button. It means you'll be notified of all of my videos. It really helps the channel, and with so much going on at the minute, make sure you don't miss out. I'll be at the Brentford game this weekend with the usual pre-match chat, match day vlogs, instant reaction, and hopefully we can see Newcastle pick up another 3 points. Alright guys, thanks for watching as always. Drop a like, as I say, subscribe, enjoy your week, and I'll catch you later.